Now let's address the topic of ranking. Now, ranking is one of the data analysis functions in Transact SQL. And in this video, I want to kind of talk to you about what ranking is and go through some of the possibilities. Then in a separate video entitled Using Ranking, I'm going to show you the examples because ultimately that's the best way to understand this. Now, ranking, just for your information, is part of a set of Windows functionality or window functionality that's kind of a close cousin to the grouping that we did a little earlier, where we kind of rolled up topics or we rolled up data into one-line summaries or counts or that sort of thing. But with ranking, we can roll up data analysis functionalities is the best way to say it. And you can kind of hear me looking for words here because it's kind of hard to explain this until you see it. But a lot of times we want to see data from our databases and we want to see it in such a way that we can apply meaning to it, not just based on the numbers that we see, but how those numbers relate to each other. And so by doing ranking, we do this with our football teams all the time. Every year, we've got our top 10 or top 25 in college football and whatever we're talking about. You see this in soccer teams around the world, but the ranking tells us positionally how things are as compared to other things. Now, a data analysis function is a function that gets applied to a set of rows, but it returns a single value for each row in relation to the other rows. Ranking functions return a ranking value for each row. And this is really kind of interesting. The result set can be divided into partitions. Now, the best way to explain this, I could pull 100 rows from a table and I could say now across all my product IDs, here's the top 50, okay, 1 to 50. Or I could say, here's the top 5 for each product ID. And then for every product ID, it will figure out the top 5. And then for the next product ID, it'll start over. Well, those are partitions. And partitions, and again, Bill doesn't call and ask me these questions, but I would have suggested a different term for that because to a lot of database people, partition refers to the partitioning or the separation of tables. And that's not what we're talking about here when we're talking about ranking. We're talking about partitioning or sectioning off the result set. And each partition then gets its own ranking values. Now, if you're confused yet, you're right where you should be. Just hang on, I'm going to get you there. When I work with ranking in Transact SQL or T-SQL, there are 4 ranking functions I can use: rank, dense rank, n-tile, and row number. Now let's look at rank first. Rank will simply return the rank of each row within the partition of a result set. So if I request 20 rows all in the same partition, then it will rank them 1 through 20. However, if 2 or more is ranked together, tied, each row receives the same rank. So let's say the first one that came back sold $50,000. Well, the second one sold 20 and the third one sold 20. So now I have a number 1, I have 2 number 2s, and if those first 2 rows tied for ranking of 1, the next one would be 3. So in this case, my first one was 1, my next 2 tied at 2. So that's actually 3 total values I have. So the next value will be 4. There will not be a 3. So it always continues to increment no matter how many ties we had. So as a result, rank does not always return consecutive integers. You may want to see it that way. But you may want to see what's called a dense rank, which means just rank them. Return the rank of rows within the partition of a result set without any gaps in the numbers. Meaning, if first place tied and there were 2 firsts, then the next one would be put down as second. We had a tie for first and this guy was second, as opposed to a regular rank where we'd have a tie for first, then the next guy's third. Kind of a level of semantics, if you will, on the ranking. Now, n-tile is very interesting. N-tile will distribute the collection of returned rows into a specified number of groups. Best example of this I can give you. If I do ranking with an n-tile of 4, and I have 40 rows coming back, this is going to break that result set into 4 groups of 10 rows and rank them. So the first group of the 4 groups would be ranked number 1, the second group would be number 2, the third would be number 3, and you guessed it, the fourth would be number 4. And what this is giving me is the ability to determine, okay, here you are, Bob, here's your numbers, you're in the second quartile, if you will. You're falling in the 50% percentile of our company salespeople because, right, the first group are in the top 25%, the next would be in 50, the second, the third would be in 75%, and the last would be within the fourth group of 100%. Now, row number is really straightforward. This just simply returns the sequential number of a row within a partition of a result set starting at 1 for the first row in each partition. So we used to try to figure this out all the time. I want the result set, okay? But the little numbers that show up on the left side over there that number my rows in the query tool, I want those numbers in my result set. How do I do that? Row number takes care of that for you. So, having said all this, you're probably now thoroughly confused and ready to go start another career somewhere else, but don't go just yet. The best way to understand this stuff is to see examples, and that's what I'm going to give you in a complete video entitled Using Ranking. So once this one's over, and trust me, it's about to be, go find the video entitled Using Ranking and watch that, and you will see all of these options in action there. And trust me, the light's going to come on and you're going to like what you see.